to the Nerdentials podcast, starring your hosts, Joe Tweet, Matthew Johnson, Nick Thomas, and Lynn Dudgeon. Welcome to Nerdentials, your weekly dose of the nerdy essentials covering film, TV, video games, and comic books. It's so autopilot for me, Matthew, I don't even flinch when you're mocking me. Not even for a minute. And I'm sure as I looked away that Nick or Lynn may have also been mocking me. For sure, Lynn. He likes doing hand gestures every time I do it. And sometimes pantomiming with the mouth. Sometimes.
We're doing that.
Now that I've already introduced most of the crew, I'm your host, Joe Tweeten, throwing it over to the side of my shoulder is the live and in-person, very real, red-headed, ginger, bearded individual himself, the Matthew Johnson.
Am I on the left or am I on the right?
Tasteful side, Matt Johnson.
For me, you're on the tasteful side right boob of me. To our listeners, you are also on the tasteful right side of me, at least at the time of this recording, from what I can see. I don't know how it's going to turn out in post. We'll find out. If I need to flip it for accuracy purposes, I'll flip it. But guys,
He needs to be right side boob now.
you know what? It's not an issue. We'll fix it in post. Hashtag technology. On that note, let me introduce the rest of my crew. Joining me with a similar saucy mouth right now is the Lynn Dudgeon.
Hey-oh, I'm not saucy.
Catchphrase in tow, as always. I do think, Lynn, this particular episode will lead to a lot of saucy comments from you for sure, regardless of your sauce level. Hashtag to all you underaged individuals, that means drinking. But
See, I didn't even know about that.
But you know what? We're not going to criticize those that didn't know that.
I'm also the oldest person here, and I didn't even know that.
You're only older by a couple months. Chill out.
A year, buddy.
Don't do that to me. You know what?
Aren't you 85?
Will you just stop? I'm not 85. That would make me ancient. Hashtag sorry for all you 90-year-olds that are listening. Well, Matthew, no. I know what you meant by that. I'm just trying to throw wrenches into your conversation. Trying to avoid the topic. Yeah, you're about a full year older than me. And for about 2 months, we're the same number until your birthday hits. And then, yes, bam, whole year older. I'd say we're 10 months apart, honestly.
I got you.
I was born in February. You were born in April. Hashtag truth.
He wants a cookie.
No, he can have a cookie for me later off air. We won't talk about that right now. That's too inappropriate for this podcast.
If not showing cookies on air, then damn. I want to know what kind of cookies you're giving out.
Patreon.
You know what's crazy about this lengthy conversation?
Wait,
you know what's
I gotta pay for those cookies.
Gotta pay to play.
Well, the one person here that speaks the truth is the last person we've left out of this entire introduction up to this point. Apologies, sir, but last but not least, I got it right this time. Forgive the bumping of the mic. We have our wonderful, streamlined, amazing, incredible, super nerdy comic book guru of the group we have, and I'm sorry if I'm painting too much of a pedestal under him. Matthew, I already introduced you.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Calm the down. That's going to be the first bleep of the night. We have
It sounds different when I say it.
Nick Thomas.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Nicholas, I did not even need to guide you through that introduction. That was quite beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful.
I will throw this out there that Joe did forget one thing on your trove of achievements. The man who rolls lower than nothing but an 18.
Hashtag inside baseball. Hashtag nerdy jokes. Hashtag the listeners don't get it.
Baseball.
Inside baseball. It means it's an inside joke and no one else gets it.
Inside the park. Not.
No, that's if you're failing at batting a home run.
He's actually talking about
You're just 20 in baseball. You're doing it wrong.
tabletop D&D.
Again, I don't presume that all our listeners are D&D aficionados, or that they're all pencil pushers or needle nose eyeglass
Well, if they aren't,
Wait a minute.
refocusers.
that's their bad.
Hold up.
Why are you offended all of a sudden? You're not even wearing glasses right now, sir.
I always
Hey.
wear glasses.
But you're
I'm
not
wearing
tonight.
contacts.
There's no indication to our viewers right now that you are.
I am very, very offended by this. And
Ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay, now for all you listeners out there in the podcast universe, that will only make sense if you catch us on YouTube.
Oh, Jesus.
How would you even describe that face that you made, Lynn? I want our listeners to understand who are not on YouTube.
He just
No.
basically made
This
the
is-
glasses with his hands.
Glasses with your hands. Fair enough. Guys, go to youtube.com/c/nerdentials to check out the mayhem that's ensuing in video form. But for all you listeners...
Nerdentialsmedia.com.
.com.
What?
.com.
Excuse me.
All right, now that we've oversold ourselves, let's jump into the topic at hand.
Shameful plug.
I don't want to.
No, there's no shame.
There
I never
was
feel
there
shame.
was definitely no shame in this introduction at all. Full gluttony across the board. Guys, that being said, let's jump into gaming bits. Phew.
I quit.
All right, there's my... No, you don't need to quit. I insulted everyone and then hard-cutted because of my authoritative nature.
I quit.
Yeah, you know what? I challenged Nick's knowledge by throwing down the gauntlet of authoritative air quotes nature, and I said, "Nick, you may be more correct than me, but we are moving on." And I literally hard cut to the next topic.
And then there was a
you
time
need to-
earlier tonight. There was a time also earlier tonight where I challenged you on my warlock, and I'm not letting that live down.
That's you challenging him, not me. That was you
Oh.
challenging Matthew.
That's
Up,
agree-
down, down, left, right, BA, start.
This is not
No,
Mortal
no, no,
Kombat,
no, no.
nor
No, no.
is
Select
this...
start.
No. This is also not an arcade cabinet. We're not talking about...
Dude, hold up.
Can we
This
just-
is from
can
Contra,
Thank you, Matt.
a.k.a. any Konami.
or there was also fucking, what is it, Gladius?
Yeah, any Konami video game, you could use that code and it will do something.
And it was
Are
because
you
the game
pronouncing it
developer
Konami?
wanted
Konami.
easier
Nothing.
a-
Nicholas, you did not need to step in on this. I was already calling him out. Damn it.
I'm not talking about your wife.
You're not talking about any...
She's very, very beautiful, but
We're not talking about anyone's wife here. We're talking about pronunciation of brands.
Konami?
Yeah, there it is. You said Konami.
Konami, same difference. Whatever.
No. Anyway, let's move on. That's not the topic at hand. We need not nitpick brands right now, or names, or producers, or production companies. Let's just
It was for
get into
gaming
it.
bits, so I threw out a random thing for gaming. I'm sorry.
You're not wrong. You're completely fine and justified. I'm just trying to keep the train moving forward for time restraints and... I see, and there Lynn is popping out at the last moment going, "Let's go!"
Okay,
Always.
fine.
Do you need to say more? That's not even the main topic. You're welcome to say a lot more in the main topic.
I'm just gonna look
Matthew.
at the stuff back here.
Yeah, don't do that. Let's get into the main topic. I mean,
You can look in the main
I mean,
topic.
by all means, look at the glorious
Turn a little
background that is
further,
my office.
So that way I
But
can get your back in there too.
there is so much talking in this. I'm probably going to cut the last 30 seconds out because we are literally talking over everyone. hashtag each other.
Hey, Joe, are we going to record an episode?
Well, we're only 11 minutes in on my end, so I would hope that we would get more than 11 minutes into a topic. So, that being said, I already made the segue of gaming bits. Bam, here we are, guys. Welcome to 2020. Probably our first gaming bits topic of the year, sadly.
Oh, damn.
On a side, I know, right? But on a side note, this is podcast episode 81, guys. Welcome to episode 81. We've made it. We've
got that sexy back of the head right there on Matthew Johnson.
Matthew Johnson, would you cock your head a little bit to the right? Sorry, left. Any further to the right and you dislocate your head.
What am I doing?
Redirect over here to the conversation.
But Walking Dead.
I mean, there's a lot of great things in the background, yes, but
we also you to bitch slap the Yeti mic.
No.
When you do smack it, you got to say, "Not the mama."
Oh yeah.
Wow. I can't believe you just smacked my mic. It's almost like I'm being violated right now in a very not okay way.
Everybody out there on the YouTube saw it too.
Hey Matt, just reach up there to the tip of the mic and do this.
You know what? Anyone wearing 3D goggles will see that, Nick, and be instantly violated and click off our episode. Please stop. All right. Guys, so
I want 3D goggles.
All right. You know what? On that note, I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but occasionally I will redirect for the sake of time.
I was just kind of
You'll forgive me and love me nonetheless because we're all best friends, am I right? I hope so.
Okay. Whatever.
Guys, we have a few interesting things to talk about as far as gaming bits, and I say a few lightly because honestly, it's been a minute since we've talked about anything gaming related on this podcast, but this is going to be our gaming bits eccentric deep episode regarding the latest things going on in the gaming industry.
You mean all the delays?
Hashtag way to cut to the point. Way to not bury the lead. Matthew's wrong? He's not. No, he's not. Hashtag not bearing the lead. Like, when you're trying to allude to something poetically, a lot of people will accuse you of saying, oh, he's bearing the lead. Nope, not this time. It's been called out explicitly up front. So here we are, guys. Hashtag...
I feel like you trying to call it out as bearing it.
You have an interesting perspective, Lynn. I respect that. I love that. I'm going to ignore that and move on. Guys, we have an interesting thing going on here where we have a culture in the last decade or two where when we hear delay, we hear, oh no, something is screwed up. But I want to ask you guys. I want to pose the question. We'll dive into the specifics of what's being delayed, but I want to pose to all my cohorts, my gaming cohorts tonight. Mm-hmm. Is it the same response 20 years ago when we heard, "Oh no, a game is being delayed," compared to hearing it today when we hear a game is delayed? I want to lay out the contextual idea that is that maybe more of a positive in the spectrum and perspective of today's gaming industry when games are affluently known to be released day one, and oh, guess what? Day one patch, and oh, is this game broken? Wow, it just came out. So when we look at the modern perspective of in the realm of day one patches, yep, that's expected, to maybe 20, 30 years ago when a game came out on a cartridge, hashtag 8-bit, 16-bit era, there was no such thing.
64-bit.
There was no such thing. my point. There was no such thing as a day one patch 20 years ago. Now, having laid that out, before we dive into like the title specifics, I want to hear you guys' general opinions. When you hear, oh, a game's delayed today, what are your thoughts? Like, hot take, oh, a game's delayed, what's your thoughts? Nick and Lynn. Lynn, right now your fingers are flying on the screen with intensity. What's your hot take on a game being delayed?
Hit everybody else. Go. Nick.
Okay, he needs a minute. Nick,
It all
he called
depends on
you
the
out.
reasons.
Okay, but give us a hot take, general feeling. Yes, don't be analytical yet. I just want the hot take feeling. You hear a game's delayed, what's the immediate thought?
The immediate thought when I hear games delayed is I hope it's for a good reason. And I hope it's because they want to make sure that it's right the first time so we don't get crap like No Man's Sky.
Or Anthem.
Or
I was trying
or
to
many
At least
titles.
No Man's Sky is good now. Anthem
Like I said,
is still
That's
not good.
That's a good that we'll come back to that soon. I promise you. I've got a lot of good points to make on that. So Nick, that is a perfect, great hot take. I think what you just said paints a picture of the modern gamer perspective of today. Is you've got a history of what it meant before and what it means now. Is you're like, well, I hope it's for a good reason, and that's a great hot take.
And then the other hot take on it is I hope it doesn't get delayed into oblivion and it never happens like something like what was that one? Scalebound?
Yes.
Delayed, deleted.
It's not deleted.
Official
Moving
statement
over to
canceled.
Switch. Moving over
Official.
to Switch.
Yep. Well, that's what it is now. You're right, Lynn. It has been resurrected, but at the time, we hear delay, cancel, ban hammer, if you will. Right.
But here's the thing: I don't have the other system, and I won't have the other system.
Well, Nick, I want to circle back to that soon, but I just want a hot take from everyone on their modern day perspective of when they hear delayed. What do you think? Okay, Matthew, when you hear games delayed, hot take.
WTF?
And okay, no, hot takes are meant to be singular statements, but is there anything else to the WTF? Yeah, sure. Shock is what you're saying. Okay, shock. What the hell?
My initial thoughts are, like Nick, is it for a good reason or is it for a money grab to kind of try and be one of the games that's going to be out by itself rather than on the same day as like a bigger name release?
Fair enough. Okay, to give Lynn a couple more seconds of breathing room, I was going to give you my hot take, Lynn.
Go for it.
Okay. True. We're all not to age us, but old enough to have seen the previous perspectives of what a delay meant versus what it is now. So we'll say the last 10 years, we'll say not to age us too much, but to say in the last 10 years of our lives, we've seen what it used to mean, what it could have meant versus what it means today. And for me, the hot take on a game's delayed does seem to surface among the more positive side of things because I think it's a history of corporations realizing they're losing way more money by just straight up cutting their losses versus trying to turn things around. And I think upon the advent of a games as service, which we can also add to the discussion later, with the idea of improvement over time and stringing people along for subscription services, which we have covered in our TV Talk subscriptions and stuff. We've talked about how companies are trying to snag us for subscriptions. I know Lynn is very strong on the birdie symbol, the FU symbol. I'll pass it over to you in just a second, sir. So, like, my modern take on, with a little bit of context there that I laid out, my modern take on delay is kind of on a more positive side. Before, it used to mean delayed. It's like with Hollywood and movie reshoots. Like, every film in the history of cinema over the last 50 years goes through reshoots, no matter what. It's a normal thing in the industry. But to the public eye, the tabloids hear reshoots, they're like, oh no, the film's in trouble, they're trying to correct. That is not 100% true. It has been true for a few big titles out there.
And that's not always a bad thing.
And it's also, yes, it's also not always a bad thing. Hollywood's been doing reshoots for at least, that's a whole nother topic. But reshoots, as in completely changing scenes or changing the direction of what the film was originally produced as, has been a common practice for at least the last 20 to 30 years or more. So carrying that over to today's gaming industry, I think delays have gone from a place of concern and worry to a place of reassurance that, okay, this big development company or publisher is so worried about how much money they're going to make on it that they are willing to hold off until the game is good in order to make the bucks. Now, from a consumer, that's an honest statement, Lynn. I know you're going to feed off of that in just a second. But I think it's to the blessing of consumers that the gaming industry corporates, like publishers, do pay attention to what makes money. Because guess what, guys? We've been told for years that fans should speak and vote with their wallets when it comes to games. If a game is crap or a game is not worth buying, don't spend your money on it. If it is worth your time and you do believe in it, spend all the money on it. And EA, not to throw shade, but they've been in the spotlight for many reasons. EA feeds off of our wallets. They feed off of what we say to them based on our wallets. So, this, I know, the elaboration I've made is not a hot take, but it's for the intent for our entire discussion is that I give all this context. So, having said that, I'm in agreement with Matt and Nick so far that, yeah, there is a small amount of concern, but a lot less nowadays because we kind of know that it means the game in some form or another is trying to be improved upon before release. That's where I land with it. I'm going to toss over the dash dab something thing that Lynn's doing here on the screen. Lynn, you can elaborate as much as you want or give us a hot take.
So here's where it's at.
Okay.
Smaller companies that aren't under large name production companies, as in certain companies that shall not be named, which you have already named.
Indies over big corporate.
It is a good thing. Like CD Projekt Red. That is a good thing. That it is delayed. Because it means they are trying to improve upon or add more content in. And I am totally down for that because it's all for a good cause or a good game. And, I'd rather have something put out that has the content in it and there is very minimal DLC release day one that, the game is good. If a game comes out with day one DLC, that's bullshit. I don't care what argument you have for it. If the DLC was made prior to the game being released, it should have been content put into the game upon release. Okay? I don't care if it's a development cost or whatever. That's something that you spent the time in original development that should have been there previously. Okay? If it's something that was developed later on, after the game's launch, that's DLC. That is additional content. If it's something that you have to put out that has to fix the game, that somebody else has to pay for, that's bullshit. That means the game should have been delayed. That problem should have been fixed, and it should have been fixed for free. Not we pay for it because you guys messed up. And that's something that EA is known for. If we're going to name drop.
I mean, Lynn, honestly, like, I know it's a hot take, but our discussion is going to name drop all the companies we love or don't quite love despite their efforts. I want this to be kind of like an open, honest discussion because it's a huge topic.
So for what I'm getting at for game delays, if it's a smaller, less corporate driven company, like if it's not EA Activision, it's not Blizzard, it's not Bethesda, it's not one of those other companies.
BioWare.
There you go.
BioWare's under EA, to be fair. We'll get into that later. Finish your point, Lynn.
If it's not under one of those companies and it's delayed, if it's for a smaller company, it's for a reason. But if it's for a larger company, the larger company will most likely delay it because it's not going to be released as potent or comparable to a similar title coming out at the same time. So they'll push it back to where it doesn't come out until after that other title comes out to try and counteract or subside some of the negative press it would have had upon initial launch. And that's usually what a lot of people do is try to make up for or counteract negative aspects of their game of other games coming out along the same lines at the same time that aren't as bad or were previously pushed back to try and make their game better, and they did succeed at doing so. And it's one of those corporate strategy moves, and it doesn't always work, hence Anthem.
Yeah.
I still want my money.
Huh?
I said I still want my money back.
Hopefully, with any luck, we're going to try to not make this episode be crazy long because, it's been a minute since we've talked about gaming topics, and there is so much happening in the last 2 months of gaming news that we're going to have to come back to this. We're going to have to definitely get back on a consistent weekly basis with gaming news because so much is happening. Hold that thought on Anthem. Everyone remember the fact that I said Anthem. Matthew wanted to say something. I'm going to toss it real quick to you.
I was just going to mention something about Anthem, but never mind.
Oh, okay. Save it for... I'm going to bring it back up probably shortly here, but...
Fuck Anthem for a minute.
Oh, yeah, All right, hashtag bleep. So...
It sounds different when you say it.
It is so weird when Lynn says it. It sounds passionate and explicative.
Why does it sound different when you say it?
So, I had a couple statements. I don't need to read through them because it's kind of old hat, old news now. We've already kind of expanded upon our feelings between, this company delaying versus that one. And so, like, for CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk had a very legitimate statement where they posted that they legitimately have right now just kind of I'm just gonna ad lib real quick on what they said about it. Basically they have like 70 something plus side missions with so much interweaving context of character dialogue, and that was one example they used as a reason why they want to spend a few more months literally on polishing up the gameplay because there are so many side missions with the main plot that there's a lot of potential for bugs, and this is a very like open statement from CD Projekt Red about Cyberpunk.
Well, that and it wasn't necessarily just all of the intertwines. It was also the crunch. They wanted to kind of counteract the crunch and not stress out the employees as much as they were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like that's a huge that's a huge industry-wide thing that some companies have acknowledged while others are still, trying to play, it's not happening, like they're trying to pretend it's not a thing.
Crunch doesn't exist. No,
and
crunch,
for
crunch is a thing.
And so the inside baseball on crunch is that when it gets close to a release date, for those not in the know, for our listeners and those maybe not familiar, crunch is basically a time where literally required or forced overtime occurs on employees, coders, designers, whatever, to polish and finish up a video game before the launch date that is expected from publishers and investors. And so no one requires that, but usually the companies actually developing the game require or force a lot of their employees to go into overtime, which a lot of the industry calls as crunch, as like, the family friendly statement of forced overtime is basically what it comes down to. That the developers at Cyberpunk posted. They said, "We're currently at a stage where the game is complete and playable, but there's still work to be done. Night City is massive, full of stories, content and places to visit, but due to the sheer scale and complexity of it all, we need more time to finish playtesting, fixing, and polishing. We want Cyberpunk 2077 to be our crowning..." I'm putting quotes around this statement. They want it to be their crowning achievement for this generation, and postponing launch will give us the precious months we need to make the game perfect. The fact that the leads, the co-founder and head of studio, Marcin Iwaniski and Adam Badowski, the heads of CD Projekt Red, are making that claim, kind of speaks volumes to the fans. They literally made a public statement that they want those precious months to polish the game and make the game perfect, and because, quote, they want it to be their crowning achievement. You don't foolishly throw out statements like that as the head of a studio and not have genuine intention behind hoping that that's what they accomplish during this delay. I think that's freaking huge. Yeah? Yellen? It's kind of mind-blowing, right?
For them saying something similar before I remember them saying something similar to that before Witcher 3.
Right, and I mean, I don't know if...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were cutting out a little bit. I can hear you. Right, and on that note, The Witcher 3 is one of the few titles that's won award after award from gaming industries across the board. So I think they're, yeah.
They put the time into it and the love into it and it made a good game.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, little one. You're still awake.
That tickles.
Oh, don't creep him out now. I'm just kidding. Lynn's like, oh, he's freaked out. No.
The heck is wrong with your freaking headset?
It can be attached for adjustment, like to go up higher or lower. It's only held by a cord unless he clicks it into the band.
That's kind of cool.
Here. You talk. Talk. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. He's like, no. People are talking to me. Nope.
As soon as he said hello, he ducked out of the headset.
No, yeah.
I was kidding. I'm sorry.
Get up here and lay down. Come on.
What does that red marker mean?
Where?
How does that mean it's recording?
Where?
On your call recorder. The blink.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the time is constantly moving. 42:58, 42:59. It's recording.
I just never noticed that red light blinking before.
Well, you're not here very often in
This is
person, Matthew. Okay. I think I may pull some of the statements I made about CD Projekt Red. I think that was kind of pertinent. I'll probably cut that into the whole conversation here, but so I mean, we've kind of had a general discussion of our feelings on what it means to be delayed. Let me list off a couple of these titles, and all of them have generally similar sentiments. But let's get some hot takes on, hey, this is delayed. How do you feel about it? So I'm just going to list off hashtag the year of delays. So, first off, just getting this out of the way, I want to hear around the table about Cyberpunk 2077. It's been delayed almost 4 or 5 months, all the way to September. It was supposed to be out now or in the next couple weeks. Now we gotta wait 6 months.
March. It was supposed to be the second week of March.
Right. See, Lynn is so on top of it because he, at his core, is a very big fan of the content of Cyberpunk because it's based off a D&D role-playing paper.
Yeah.
Pen and paper.
Sorry.
Tabletop.
So, Matthew, you wanna add to that real quick?
Well, no, like it was the second week of March, and then they were doing it like the third week of April, and then they did another one where it's now this September 17th.
Yeah, I remember one of these big titles got delayed like 2 different times, and so right now Cyberpunk's resting in September. Nick,
Yep.
any thoughts on this particular title? Do you have any interest at all? It's okay if you don't.
No, I do. This is definitely one that I'm hoping that they take their time with and don't mess it up. Because as someone that plays the tabletops of this, it will be easy for them to mess up. But if they pull this off, this is going to be epic.
Absolutely. Not to be confused with the developing company of the same name.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about Fortnite here. Oh, hashtag, did I say that? Anyway.
I play Fortnite now.
Shh. We'll talk to you off air, Matthew. Not cool. Not cool. Okay, anyway.
Goodbye.
Another delay. I mean, Lynn's going nuts with this kid right now off air. Hopefully he can voice an opinion about Final Fantasy VII and its delay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, but here's the thing. I want to
What?
just hold off for a second, Lynn. Here's what I'll throw. Here's what I'll throw at you. It's only delayed by a month from its original release time. Barely a month. Instead of March, it's coming out April 10th.
Right.
An additional 4 full weeks. Now, the downside to some of these delays, and truth be told, we are not of these types, but there are gamers in the industry, gamers in the public, that literally request days off for certain releases. Now, I know, head drop for some of us. I understand it, Nick, Go back to your childhood of like Halo 2.
Halo 3, midnight release.
For me, Halo 2, I'm going back further because that was the last time I gave a shit about a midnight release. Hashtag no shame. I love all the Halo entries, but the last time I genuinely stayed up and tried to go to a store...
I bought you one.
Okay, but going back a little further, the last time I actually tried to stay up or go to a store either that night or the next morning for a midnight release was Halo 2. Hashtag 2004, 2005. That was more than a decade ago. And, you know, shame me, listeners, for not being a dedicated, ongoing gamer. I like to think that I've always been a gamer. I just have never had the same level of passion as I did when I was in my late teens, early 20s, which is honestly the truth of how old I was when Halo 2 came out. I was 20 years old when Halo 2 came out. So, still youthful, not married, no kids. Boom, there you go. To all you people that don't understand, but like, yeah, I now, all of us are married, all of us have kids. So, like, the feeling and passion that we may have had in our early 20s may not be as similar or the same, but the point is, Halo 2 also came out in an era where we didn't have day one patches. It was also an era of physical media where we couldn't just easily download it from the comfort of our living rooms.
Right.
So there's a huge difference in what it meant to wait for a game and being excited for its release versus nowadays we're like, day one patch releases and being delayed. Now we're slowly starting to be like, cool, that sucks, but I hope it's better when it comes out. Now, in the last couple years, with Destiny releases and, you know, hardcore fans of Destiny, I've been in that mix of community knowing that there are a lot of people that take days off for a release.
No, why does anybody take any time off for Destiny?
Right? Who does that? But Lynn, the community of Destiny players were outraged when, what was it? Was it the Forsaken expansion that was delayed initially? Like recently, in the last year, wasn't it? The Forsaken release was pushed back by a week or two.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
I think about 2 weeks, and a lot of hardcore YouTubers that do Destiny content and casual / hardcore fans like us, a lot of people, not me particularly, I didn't take the time off, can't afford to do that, but a lot of people did. Then, hashtag people did, and some people do still, and maybe it's probably not the vast majority nowadays because of the constant, day one patches, delays now, hashtag 2020, and the ease of digital downloading. A lot of people don't necessarily take the day off, or purposely for that matter, but
we can dive more into that later, though.
We'll come back to that. But so, hot take on Final Fantasy, it's only a 30-day delay. And that's a whole nother separate topic on the intricacies of how Square Enix is handling that, how it's only a portion of Final Fantasy VII. Me and Lynn, we can come back to that. I've dived deep in the details.
Midgard's going to be huge, but it's going to be episodic, and it's going to be delayed.
I mean, all of those sound like memes, Lynn, and I know you're feeding off of that in your statements. Absolutely true. Yes, this particular first release of Final Fantasy VII Remake is all taking place in Midgard. It's not going to go outside of that, as far as we know, and they're still going to charge $60 for a full release game. Based on all the videos I've seen, it does seem like there's a lot there. There's a lot of hardcore fans that were like, when they went back to it and they've played it, they're like, okay, yeah, there is a lot in Midgard where they could feasibly see that if they do it right, there's a lot there and enough there that potentially that could be a full game. But again, Lynn, I feel like that's a separate discussion for this.
What was
Truly.
it? What, one disc of the 4 was Midgar? One disc?
1.5.
One and a half. Okay.
I
Fair.
mean, regardless.
One
Even
and a
at that
quarter.
rate, one and a
Okay.
1.25. I would give it 1.25. I won't say 1.5.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
one and a quarter.
I'm not trying to, guys. I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole about this
But-
particular title.
Oh.
There's a lot to say about.
Let's break God down.
No, hey, okay. Fans included, as far as who would be talking about that would care about this.
I'm still excited about the game, though.
There's a lot to say, and it does look good from what I've seen, Matthew, in my personal opinion. But
You know what I'm excited for from Final Fantasy VII Remake? Sid and Red 13.
Heck yeah.
That's it.
okay,
Everybody else, I'm not excited for.
that's
come on.
that's unfortunate.
Why not
That's kind
Cloud?
of sad, Lynn. I'm not gonna lie, but to save ourselves from going too much longer and deeper into this, I'm gonna move on to a couple more titles just to get your hot takes on. We could definitely talk at length about Final Fantasy VII, the remake, at a later point. Lynn, I'm sorry if that upsets you. Do you want to talk more about that right now?
No, I think he's having fun with his son.
I mean,
Oh,
he is, but
Well, okay, we can move on because I'm just gonna get salty from here. So let's just
I know. I want to. I want to desalt you a little bit and say great things, but like, I don't have the history behind it to do that for him, Matthew.
I'm kind of trying to figure out like why he says Final Fantasy is meh. Because this Final Fantasy was like my favorite out of the
say-
whole.
Oh,
freaking
no.
Meh.
No,
I
Lynn.
said
I'll
this
Lynn.
remake is meh.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I only heard
Matthew, I will also stand up for Lynn by saying that he was also met about 15, which recently came out a year ago and is now on Xbox Game Pass, for different reasons. He has a lot of meh to say about that, but he cherishes the older ones. There's no meh about that. That's where Lynn is left with great concern about the remake, and it's a wait and see for him and seeing how that unfolds.
I think it might have been maybe just like
I just don't want it to turn into a Final Fantasy typo kind of scenario. I was very, this game is not fun, and the voice acting is very and cringy.
Are you talking about the third?
Oh, he said the typo negative release, which is one of the spin-offs from 7, right?
Hold on. I'll go grab it so you can see, so you're not like, what game is he talking about?
I have
I
some
think
familiarity, Lynn. I do.
That's the hack and slash one, right?
Just right here. This one was very, this isn't Final Fantasy. This is something that they're trying to cash in on.
Which one was that?
Oh, yeah. That's not even. Yeah, I don't even
What's
consider
the
that
title
game.
of it officially? What does it say?
It
Typo
is
negative.
Final Fantasy Typo Negative HD.
Yeah, I remember that one coming out. Yeah.
That was like in
It is-
between like 10 and 12, I think, right? Or no, 12. And,
It is rated M for mature as opposed to the T that every one of the other ones was rated for, because there were certain things that were tried to push the line to make it better than the others, and it just ended up belly flopping and being very cringy.
yes.
Wow.
It was kind of cringy.
It's getting really late for us listeners. We have a thing or two to say before we wrap up, but Nick needs to cut out, so we are going to cut him loose now. Nicholas, thanks for joining us.
No. Fun like always, man.
See you on the other side.
And yeah, Nicholas, to keep it cheesy, we will see you on the other side.
I don't think it's as far-fetched as it was on Xbox, because my PlayStation 3, my original one, my printer, could play PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games.
Yeah,
That's
I
because
know.
I was scared for that. I think what he's going off of is the fact that Xbox One right now, you can go into Xbox Game Pass and actually play some of the old Xbox games like Fusion Frenzy.
Yeah, but
and
all of
still
those,
online.
I know, but all of those on Game Pass are set up to run the original disc if you pop it in.
Right.
So I mean, it's the same thing.
It's like when I went back and I couldn't find my Jade Empire disc, so I went back to GameStop and I got a $4.99 Jade Empire disc and popped it into my Xbox One S, and I can play my Jade Empire.
Yeah.
So I'm
Right. Yeah.
that's fine and dandy. But then when I go to grab Robin's Sega Genesis collection, I can't play the Sega Genesis collection in my Xbox One S because it's not on the list.
Right.
Yeah.
Not yet. Because with Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they're both pushing to the fact that they want to have adults be able to like showcase like some of the old games that they played with their kids, like the Sega collection, because you got Sonic and crap.
Well,
Yeah.
They used to have Sonic on there, but then they took it off because not a lot of people actually like
Well,
played it. Anyways,
they gave us Sonic Mania with PlayStation Plus, and it's still a thing. And it's a great Sonic. I will say Sonic Mania is a great game that I could have swore was on Xbox.
it is on Xbox. I own it.
Sonic Mania is a great game. Hey,
I'm referring to like the old Sonic games, like Sonic 1 and Sonic 2.
well, Sonic Mania's got one all the way through the new stuff. We will. That will be one of the ones that we need to see if it's worth it or not. But Dying Light, for sure, I know will be worth it. Because the first Dying Light with all that parkour and the RPG mechanics was pretty good. So I
Right.
feel like that one's probably delayed for a reason. Whereas Watchdog, I know they're trying to change it up in this one, and there are certain rogue-like RPG elements to this one. Whereas if a character dies, that character dies for good, and you move on to another character, and then you control that character. That's kind of, I've seen it done in Zombie U, and it was, like I'm saying, like the Watch Dogs, if it gets delayed, I hope that there's a good reason why it's getting delayed, and it's not for just other titles coming out at the same time.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, just to kind of round this thing out, we did a little bit of a hot take thing on your end, Lynn, on these two titles. Watchdog Legion. What I can say on this one is that the company has come out and said that basically they just want to work on polishing it. At least that's the excuse. This is their third title. Though it did not do well on the grand scale, critically it did okay actually. Watch Dogs 2 did decent. So this game is going to take a lot of gameplay factors and things that were successful about Watch Dogs 2. It is going to take place in a neo-noir near future London. So they are leaving America, going to London. It looks cool. Sure. I mean, but yeah, you're right, Lynn. As far as, like, historically speaking, this is one of those we're going to have to wait and see on how fruitful the delay for Watchdog Legion is going to be.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, let's go back to Watchdog 1 with what they said with that one and the development over it, and then how the CG trailer didn't turn out to be actual gameplay.
Right. That was pretty, like, first iteration grassroots. Like, we're going back a ways for that one. But yeah.
I hope that they're actually doing it for meaningful purposes, like maybe questline or side quests or something like that, you know, or even
Yeah,
if it's
hopefully it is
miscellaneous random
polished.
characters that you can add to your roster that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I mean, if it's for a purpose, awesome. But if it's not, baloney.
Right. Absolutely. Matthew, hot take on Watch Dogs Legion. Similar sentiments or do you have another thought?
No, I'm pretty much with Lynn on that one. Like, it's that game. The first one was good, except for like how the graphics didn't match up with like how they portrayed it in E3. But as far as like gameplay goes, like it was phenomenal. Then the second one came out, and I don't think it was as good as the first. Like, there was a few more mechanics that kind of confused a lot of people, I think, in my opinion.
The second one was very memey as all get out.
Yes. And then for this one, like, it's kind of like, I like the concept that they're going for, but if it's a bigger map and you're going to be able to take control over like multiple people, it's going to have to be like completely great to like be worth it.
Right.
I'm hoping that it's going to be good because I like the first two, but
I like the setting. I feel like there's a lot of futuresque, cyberpunky things that are kind of coincidentally having been in development around the same time. No, hashtag Cyberpunk 2077, of course. That one's been in development for quite a while, though, to be fair. And yeah, they're doing the London slightly futuristic setting. I just hope they take what they've done well and what people have enjoyed about them, and that they strike a good chord and a decent level of polish based on this delay. Because the thing is that a lot of these titles are being delayed to summer/fall, and like March and April would have been the better months, honestly, for some of these titles to release, based on, to be honest, I mean, we haven't talked about it yet. We'll save it for our next episode, but just the general discussion of next-gen consoles coming out around that time. A lot of these games have been delayed to literally a month prior or within the month of possibly the PS5 and the Xbox X Series. The next gen this fall is coming. And yeah, there were rumors about Nintendo Switch Pro. That's been debunked. That's actually not happening currently. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but currently the only thing on the table right now is PS5 and the next Xbox. And for all intents and purposes, end of September, sometime mid-November is kind of where we expect to see those consoles land. And a lot of these big-name titles are being delayed really close to the launch of those consoles. I guess I want to throw this out there, hot take. Do you think, for some of them, does that have anything to do with it? Do you think they're hoping to bank on the next-gen console when a lot of these games are actually being developed on the last-gen hardware?
So, for me, I think, like, specifically, so, like, for, like, Cyberpunk 2077, I think for them, how it was back when Xbox One first came out, you would have an Xbox 360 title, and then you could get the Xbox One version of the same game for like an upgraded price.
A lot of people call that double dipping in the industry. That's what happened, especially with Grand Theft Auto 5, 360, Xbox One.
$10 for the same game going over. Like that's what I'm referring to.
I think that was only true for Destiny. I think when you invested in Grand Theft Auto 5, I'm pretty sure you had to spend a whole nother $60 for the Xbox One edition.
So like
within a time limit, right? Like
Call of Duty Ghost came out about the same time.
But I remember,
and it was only like $10 to upgrade that one too.
I remember a time limit on that though. I don't think it was like an indefinite upgrade cost.
No, it was
right?
It was for I think up until like February, for like when like newer games were coming out for the next gens.
That's what I'm saying, Lynn.
Like on Destiny, it was a straight across.
Yeah, straight across.
You just had to pick what console you wanted.
Yeah, I knew that it was a small upgrade price with like titles like Grand Theft Auto 5 from Rockstar, which there were time limits on how long that extended, and obviously if it was a year later and you already spent $60 2 years prior with the 360 edition, and now you're like finally here in the Xbox One, that game did not drop in price until literally a few months ago. And it's been the number one top. I mean, it went on sale a couple times randomly here and there, but it stayed $60 for the last 5, almost 6 years since that game came out, GTA 5. Mainly because of the online component and just how popular that game has stayed.
And the DLC, like that,
which
keeps
coincides with the online portion.
I gotcha.
Yeah, right. So, I will say this.
But okay, go for it. Do your thing. I was trying to bring it back on top.
Right. So, quick last shout out. I know there are other titles that have been delayed, but Matthew, I know Dying Light 2 has been something in your peripheral.
Oh,
and possibly Lynn's. What were your thoughts on this being delayed? It was supposed to come out in spring, like in the next month.
It felt like my heart was ripped out. Not really.
Zombie style.
It was definitely like a bummer seeing that it was going to be delayed, but at the same time, like if they're trying to go along with, say, like Cyberpunk 2077, where they're trying to polish the game before it comes out, because there's a lot of aspects in this game that are completely new.
They also say they're going to double up on the parkour, like double the moves they're going to add, I guess.
But I'm just hoping that it's not going to be for like a cash grab to where it's going to have like DLC day one kind of a thing. Like I'm really hoping that that's not like.
I'm thinking with a lot of these game delays that like day one DLC is not specifically going to be a thing.
I'm just.
I mean, if it's a game that has seasons or battle passes, like that's kind of going to be expected. But like single player experiences, like CD Projekt Red delaying a single player RPG, and they have told us there won't be multiplayer in the first year, but they are promising they will introduce a multiplayer aspect within the following year. I mean, that tells me
this is already going to be multiplayer right off the bat.
Which one?
Dying Light 2.
Okay, so like, but I mean, just bringing it back to the various reasons of what the delays are for, I'm going to say that Watch Dogs is questionable, but like Dying Light, who knows? Maybe it is. The first one was very successful. I'm guessing it is for polish. I don't foresee huge DLC coming out right away.
Okay, I'm going to throw my 2 cents in
real
quick.
Go for it.
Dying Light, the original, was kind of a slow burn. It took a minute for people to really pick up on it and take off. It wasn't initially like a smash hit, but it turned into one.
For me, it was.
Which is
okay. Hashtag
it's for all those the diehard, like Resident Evil or survival horror fans. It was a smash hit. Like, what was that one though? Evil Within. That was another one. That one was good. And that one wasn't initially a smash hit, but then it turned into something that got better and people, picked up on it and took off with it.
Good and evil.
But yeah, there you go. But my thing is with the waiting for the next gen consoles, unless it is developed on the dev kit for the newer consoles, or it's straight up just developed for PC at max range right now, it's going to be a cash grab. That's all that it's going to be. And unless, like what I'm saying, if they got a PS5 or a next-gen Xbox dev kit,
right. Yeah,
it's going to be a cash grab.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to, because they'll just port it over and you'll get, what it was developed at on current gen, but upscaled. And that's all that it'll be.
Right.
So, I mean, don't if somebody's saying that they're waiting for the next console set, they're just trying to get money because they know the next consoles are coming out and their game's not going to release until close to when that comes out. But CD Projekt Red, I don't want to put all of my coins in that basket, but I have a feeling that they're primarily developing that on PC at highest range, at highest, graphics capabilities.
Thank you for bringing that up, Lynn, as far as, like, how developers are tackling next-gen graphically. I just kind of wanted to point this out, and, like, I'm going to save this topic for another episode, but one of the philosophies that Phil Spencer shared about the future of Xbox and why I'm kind of on board with him, why I think it will still be successful, is, I know, hashtag throw the memes out there now, guys. Yes, Xbox is just a PC, but let's be honest, all the current gen other than a Nintendo Switch are basically compact forms of PCs. Like, the hardware is very similar to PCs, if not able to be the top notch of current PCs, but really close to current gen of things. What he pointed out, very briefly, I'll throw this out there, he said one thing that I know they're talking about is the PC industry has been developing theoretically in the same scope of what we think of as cross-gen platform compatibility. Because think about this. A game you get today is, for most intents and purposes, for most developers that are developing for PC, have to make their game be able to scale down to older models and lower graphic card capabilities. Meaning, yes, you can't run ultra graphic settings on a 6-year-old PC, but if you lower those settings in-game, you should still be able to play it with decent frame rate. Now, that does not mean that game can't be, cranked up to ultra graphics on a really fancy PC if you put the money in for a great gaming PC. So, Phil Spencer's perspective on the idea, basically, I'm paraphrasing, this is not quoted from him, but the industry is kind of going the way of the PC as far as consoles are concerned, where, yes, the best place to play Halo Infinite will be on the Xbox X Series, probably $500+ that comes out sometime this holiday. However, he also guarantees it will be playable on an original Xbox One. Case in point, the Xbox I have sitting in my office right now is an original Xbox One. Not an S, not a One X. That console right next to me is 6 years old. And he is claiming Halo Infinite will still play just fine on an original Xbox One.
It's been out for that long. Holy crap.
Roughly. About 6 years.
Lord.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but to his point and my point, yes, it's a high-end new release. It can play on a 6-year-old PC. You just are not going to get the best frame rate. You're not going to get the 4K textures. You may not even get the HDR capabilities on my Xbox One. But just like any PC owner that wants to get the best experience, that's the encouragement and idea behind buying next gen as far as Microsoft is concerned. Now, I want to save that discussion as far as comparing it to PlayStation and Nintendo for a later date. But that's kind of where I wanted to leave us off with when Lynn was talking about next gen games. And so I was trying to connect you were talking about next gen and how I was like, well, I think
delays and
I think the angle for next gen industry is to be more PC like. I think games
that way
are going to develop for the high end,
right,
but be allowed to scale back. So yeah, you're not going to get the best experience on the older consoles which may, like PC players, encourage you to upgrade. Because why else do PC players keep buying new parts every couple years? They want to get the best out of their games. And I think that's the angle, at least that Microsoft's going, and possibly the angle of others. But, man, I'm just going to throw this out there. Guys, this is going to wrap up our show for tonight. We kind of just went long in the tooth on next-gen concepts and game delays. We'll bring you more gaming reviews in the future, but right now our co-host Lynn is dealing with children that are up way past their bedtime.
He's trying to squish you guys' heads.
That is precious, Matthew. Don't you agree? Little kids looking at us on a
Kind of reminds me
Skype
of like
call.
what is it?
So
Saturday
precious.
Night Live. Nobody's here. Nope, nobody home.
Precious,
Never mind.
old, humorous.
Yes,
I was
very old.
laughing inside, Matthew. Not that helps your cause here.
The poltergeist is now throwing things throughout the house.
Dear God, let's wrap this up before we become possessed by someone or something. Guys, thank you so much for joining podcast episode 81. This has been a Gaming Bits episode. It's been a minute since we've talked about games, but we are back on a regular schedule, guys. We got an episode up on Monday, and I'm thinking this will hit up sometime midweek, but we are on a weekly, dedicated, every Monday schedule, guys. So for the latest in movies, TVs, and video game content, check back every Monday for the latest. For myself, Matthew, and Lynn, shout out to Nicholas. He couldn't finish the cast tonight. But this has been your Nerdy Essentials. As always, nerds, we'll see you on the other side. Now, to him, that was super delayed on his end, us waiting that long.
Right.
He just tries to feel it out. He's like, okay, a couple seconds go by, other side.